Hello, welcome to another edition of the Low Code Café. This is episode number 171 for September 25, 2024. Today we're going to continue our series on seamless user authentication. We're going to learn how to sign in with Google. So we'll continue that series. We'll be going through the Google Developer Console. We'll be basically setting everything up from scratch. So hopefully your takeaway today will be knowing how to do that. We're going to be using our OpenID Connect add-on to do that, which is part of the normal Harvest subscription. And we'll also talk about hotfixes. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plantain, and joined capably today by Patrick Anderson, Technical Success Manager, who's going to keep me on track and, well, stall if I get into trouble. We do this event every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central Time. It's an opportunity for us, excuse me, I said every Wednesday, but it's bi-weekly, every other Wednesday. It's our community webinar where we update you on what's going on, give some demos, but really the biggest piece we try to do reserve for hands-on low coding. We try and keep this to a technical audience, and then we'll give some stories and tips from our team in the community. We record all of these and put them out on YouTube, so there's already 170 episodes out there in just a few short years. You can get to that through that QR code or youtube.com/plantainapp. Today's agenda, I've got a few topics under the From the Trenches of Support, but then we'll just go right on into hands-on low coding, getting into that Google. Do engage with us. There's a chat window. There's question and answer. You can raise your hand and talk, and at the end, we'd love for you to give us some feedback with our feedback form. As I mentioned, we do this every other week, so our next live webinar is scheduled for October 9. All right, support. We're currently in version 1.26, and that was released on June 14th. We have some hotfixes available, and we cover those week by week. So looking at the hotfixes, I have a system here that I just update when we get together, and so this shows the hotfixes that we haven't talked about since the last 2 weeks. There's some good ones out here, and I know that this is important to at least one person on the call today, that in the app builder, we've released a fix that includes the drag and drop issue. Let's see, is it not mentioned here? Maybe not. In the listings, if we look in the details, there's the fix for drag and drop. So my recommendation would be to install both of these if you're needing the drag and drop. But let's see what else there is. We had an issue come up where if you're using the checkbox list field and you were using HTML in the values, they weren't showing correctly, so we fixed that. In our workflows, we've got a new UI, and we recommend that you use that. That's going to be a Kamar only UI, I believe, when we get to our next version. But we had an issue where exporting and importing actions didn't work correctly, so that's fixed. There was an issue if you're using the new parallel gateway feature in workflows that if you had it only set up with one action, which it doesn't make sense to do things in parallel and then only set up one action. So it didn't save correctly, and now it does. And something I guess I wasn't aware of, schema disappearing from a database table list bug. So whatever that was, that one's fixed as well. In listings, I'm going to close that up here. In listings, the main thing was the drag and drop issue, but I see that the schema disappearing has also impacted the listings. Some exciting things going on with the page builder theme that we've done a lot of work in there, and it's mostly about making it work well for mobile users. So if you were to go and look at a menu, once this is installed for mobile users, you'll see that the chevrons are there for drop-down menus. The menus are now very able to be navigated. clicking on the chevrons isn't hard. Certain things, like if you have a page that is just a title and not really a link, it will now show that, and it won't try to, it'll correctly show the sub items if you click into it and more. So there's just a lot going on there with Page Builder, and so if you're using that, definitely recommend installing that. And then there's a fix here for it's called an enhancement for PDF generator. And Patrick, if you have any comments, I'd love to hear it. But I think this really is about improving the way that we do things internally in the code. And I'm not sure that we actually see a benefit to you other than we're improving our code and streamlining things internally. So I'm not sure that it'll be included and you can get it. I'm not sure what enhancement the user will see from that, but again, this batch is recommend installing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that while we talk here. We won't wait for or review these, but at least this will all be cleared out before we so that we'll have an empty list, and we'll see in 2 weeks what more we get released. These get released along the way as they become available. We don't hold them for the Low Code Cafe. So if you're waiting for something, you can check your hotfixes and see if they're there, or we will notify you if there's something that you're waiting for. The fix to drag and drop just came out. Patrick took care of that literally 10 minutes before this event, so I didn't get a chance to notify the customer yet, but now you know. All right, so that's hotfixes, and we're going to put that away. So I would remind you that once a week, every week, we do Low Code Campfire. That's Fridays at the same hour, 10 a.m. Central Time. Low Code Campfire is where we get together and talk about in more of a conversation format. And so if you're not currently participating in that, it's really a good investment of an hour. We get as many as 10 or 15 of our users together, so it's a nice user group meeting, and we often solve problems right in the room there in the virtual room. Yeah, you're welcome, Matt. Good. So links for this episode, Patrick's about to put that on the chat, but you can register in advance for the Low Code Campfire. You can get to our webinar recordings, learn well how to get into the community portal and get access to all those great minds of our users that monitor it. So you can post things in the forum and get answers from us and our community, and suggest feature enhancements as well. And then that form I mentioned, if you want to give us some feedback, that's there on there as well. Great, we got into hands-on low coding, most of the hour left for that. So we will be doing seamless user authentication, sign in with Google. Let's dive in. So where are we going with this? The idea is, and the key takeaways that you're going to get, you're going to have step-by-step instructions on how to install and configure and implement the OpenID Connect to allow Google authentication. If you have access to a Google account, I guess that's a Google Cloud account. We're not going to cover that today, but everything else we're going to cover. So if you have access to that, you'll be able to authenticate with Google. The features and benefits of that, so it's a seamless integration. So you set this up, you set up a Google project, you turn on OpenID Connect, and now users can sign into your site, and you don't have to handle their credentials. They sign in with their familiar Google interface. It's convenient for them because they don't need to remember an additional username and password. They can just sign into your site using Google, and so that is a lower barrier to entry. And then yeah, that is single sign-on. So if you have multiple sites, they can sign on to any and all of them using those same Google credentials. So it's a convenience thing. It's also enhanced security because Google handles the security of the passwords. They have two-factor authentication. You'll see me using that today. And they protect against losing the password. So that's nice to get that out of your hands. Google is obviously scalable and reliable. And so as your user base grows, you don't have to have issues with performance or security, at least with regards to managing logins. And then there's some rich user profiles. You can get up-to-date information from Google. So, for example, images, and I think we'll probably get a chance to get into that a little bit. But if a user has an image on Google, you'll be able to take advantage of that. So what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to install and configure OpenID Connect, and we'll end up signing in with Google, and user password, user and profile information will be established. So I like to show what the target is, and so I have a site here that where I've already done the work, and so we're just showing you how to do it today. So this is my prep site, and so we have a site that we were working last time with, and this is a quick review. We have the Open LDAP is the one we did last week, where you could sign in with a username and password. And this is going off of an LDAP server. And of course it errors out. Maybe I don't know.
I think that was just you putting some JSON into the submit button.
Ah. I don't know why it errored out. I think it's going to let me in this time. But the idea is that using Open LDAP and if you have an LDAP server, that you would be able to log in. And we can see now that I'm logged in as Newton. So the credentials for that they weren't established on our system, but rather this Open LDAP system. So if you have an LDAP server that controls all of your users in multiple sites, they're able to sign in with that. So that was our target for last time. Our target for this time is that if we go to sign in using the standard login form, we have email and password, but we're adding a login with Google button. It takes us out to Google and lets us pick an identity that any of our identities that we have with Google, and then we are signed in with whatever identity we select. So yeah, it's so simple it looks like it's not hard at all, right? But it's all about adding that button, getting it all configured right so that everything comes in correctly. So that's where we're going. Let me move that out of the way. So yeah, that's where we're going. So the first thing that we have to do is some work in Google. We have to set up a project within Google and configure two things: an OAuth consent screen and OAuth credentials. Let's go there.
Dale,
Yes.
let's just pause for a second. Maybe we can address Ben's question, because he's wondering if this is making it possible to programmatically access Google services. And
if you have the answer to that.
Well, no, I was going to say that I think this is just what we're covering here is just authentication to your site. There's other things that we can, there's I don't know that it would actually give you that access. Yeah.
You're probably some of the same tools with the Google console, and there's a lot of things that are available in there. I think we've used this before for example, geocoding addresses, and Google offers many services, but we're just tapping into one of them, the ability to sign in.
Yep.
Good, thanks. And yeah, questions welcome all along the way. I don't think we're going to have a real hard time fitting this one into the hour today. So if you have questions, by all means. So there's Google Cloud, console.cloud.google.com gives you access to, that's the place where you have to have an account in order to be able to do what we're going to do today. And that's the part I'm not covering. But if you get a Google Console Cloud account, you'll be able to do all of this. And I think Patrick is going to put that on the chat so that you'll have access to that. The first thing that we need to do, you don't have to create a new project, but I wanted to create a new project from the start so that you can see everything that needs to happen. So I'm going to create a project called Cafe 171 Live, let's call it. It's defaulted my organization and my location, so I don't need to do anything more than that. So we will create the project. Once, and yeah, it's giving me some nice notifications over here. Great, it's done. We need to configure two things, this OAuth consent screen, because we're going to be using the OAuth service. So we've got the OAuth consent screen. We'll fill in a few blanks and get it to go here. I need to pick my new project. Didn't go to my new project automatically, so that's interesting. So we go to Cafe 171 Live, and we go to the OAuth consent screen, and it's asking us some questions. Is this an internal or an external use? Well, we're going to say it's an external use, and you can see there's some warnings here about you might need to verify your app with Google. So I followed the learn more about this, and for the minimal purpose that we're doing today, I don't think your app is going to need to be verified. So long as you don't request a lot of information from the users, additional scopes, they call it. If all we're doing is it's basically name and email address and their image, so long as you're sticking to that minimal information, then I don't think you need to that it will need to be verified, but you'll have to follow that for your own use case as well. And you may want the additional scopes, and that'll be another issue for you. But I'm just going to create this as an external. So it's going to ask my app name. And so I'm going to call my app the Cafe 171 Live. And it needs an email address, so we'll do that. And we need it asks for an app logo. I don't know if this is required, but I'm going to browse and I've got one. It wants a square, so I've made a nice little square logo here somewhere. Yep. So I don't really know the purpose of this, but it asks for it. Then it wants to know what application homepage we're going to be doing this on. So we're going to be doing it on this one. And so I'm just going to copy this. And then it wants to know our privacy policy and our terms. So there is a privacy policy. We have a link to it here in our site, and I'm going to let this come up. Make sure that it works, but then I'll copy that. Yep, we have one, and so we'll use that. And in the same way, we have a terms on our site, and so we'll copy that. So we'll just give Google what it wants here. In terms of authorize, then we go to authorized domains. We're going to add a domain that is linkonapp.com. This is it wants this part of the name to authorize, so we're going to add that. And then they can contact me at my email address. And that's it. Save and continue. And it seems to be happy with that. So that's setting up the OAuth consent. The next thing we need is OAuth credentials. This is even easier. Whoops. So we go to the credentials and we say that we want, which one is it? I've got to check my notes here. Something I didn't get into the notes. we want an OAuth client ID as a web application. So we're doing create credentials, OAuth client ID, and the application type is a web application. The name of this is going to be whatever we would call it. And I think that's all we need. We create the credentials, and it's going to give us the two things that we're going to need later, a client ID, which I'll copy here, and a client secret, which of course this is something that you would keep secret to you. You're going to be able to see it today. That's no problem. We're going to come along and delete these right after the webinar so that they're not permanently part of the they won't be operational record, but at least you can see this the way it all goes together. So we need those two things, and I've put them on our clipboard to use. So that's the Google setup part of this. So moving on, the next thing we need to do is to install the OpenID Connect add-on. This is done under our configuration menu of your website. If you go down to updates, there are add-ons, and I didn't actually check. I should probably check here about the hot fixes. We're mostly up to date. I'm not going to spend time on that. So in the add-ons, we can look for Open, and we can see that the OpenID connector is here, and so we can just install it. Say yes. So the add-ons that we provide that are available to you to use are there in the add-ons. There are other add-ons that sometimes we have to provide you a hyperlink to install, but this one was available right on the add-ons tab. And then depending on your license, I'll just mention, we're working on our licensing. Depending on your license, you may need additional licensing to run certain add-ons. So if somebody's watching this much later, current licenses would include this. Somebody watching this in years to come, you might need to get licensing to run this add-on. Okay, and then as soon as that installs, I'll show you where it is, and then we're going to have to make some page settings. This add-on we've had for a little while, and it hasn't been updated. It's still a Bootstrap 3 interface, and so we need to make sure the page that comes up for it needs to be set to Bootstrap 3. Again, watching in later years, perhaps this issue is resolved and you won't need to do this step. This particular add-on is available on the persona bar under DN Sharp OpenID Connect. So this is how you get to it, and we click into it, and it will open. And again, because I've been working with this over the last couple of days, I know that we need to convert this page to a Bootstrap 3 format. It's automatically coming in Bootstrap 5. We can do that by putting it into edit mode and going to page settings. As we look at the advanced appearance, we can see that it's defaulted because of the choices of the site. It's using the site default of a layout called default BS5. So it's got Bootstrap 5 on the page. It also has Bootstrap 3 on the page, and that confuses it. So by doing this, that gets rid of Bootstrap 5, and we can save, and it'll be fine. You could also flip it to Exelon if you preferred. You pick the theme that works for you. So we'll refresh the page, and now hopefully we won't get into any trouble with Bootstrap, and we can close that out. So now we start with our OpenID Connect configuration. We've done the Google part, and we now have to tell OpenID what we want it to do and set it up to work with Google Sign-In. Again, this is all pretty easy. Yeah, I'm going to leave Google there. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is we want to enable it. So we can click the enable button. There's some options here we'll cover as we do more. Eventually, we're going to want to hide the DNN login form, but for now, we'll just leave that off. And then um, after having done that first bit, we hit save, and that opens up the ability to add a provider. So this is where we're going to add a new provider. It's enabled. And the provider type we want to do is OpenID Connect. This can be used for different things, but for Google, the right answer is OpenID Connect. We're going to call this the sign in with Google. That's what they call their service. Or at least what users end up seeing, sign in with Google. So I'll call it the same name. And we have to provide an issuer. The issuer for Google is this value. It's accounts.google.com. So we will paste that here. And Patrick is doing a great job to keep that on the clipboard. For this one, we don't need the endpoint or the scopes. This would be the place where if you were I believe you could, if you're needing more information from Google and you wanted to go through the approval process, that you could ask for more stuff from them, more scopes. But we're going to just leave it to the basic. And so now we need our client ID, client secret. So I have this on my clipboard. I'm going to grab it. This is the client ID that we copied earlier, and this is the client secret that we copied earlier. And so we set those things up. With nothing more than that, if we save it, it's at the bottom, save the provider. We now have some sign in with Google capability. And for those that are unfamiliar, my password manager keeps popping up because it sees that some kind of password was used, and so that you probably won't see that particular thing. Anyway, so now if we you'll see me several times today work with an incognito screen. I'm going to open up an incognito screen and try to go to our website. Having done nothing more than configure that, I believe if we go out to oh, we do have another step. So, this is our login screen, and we don't have any ability to log in with Google yet. So I'm going to put this aside and let's go figure out what else we need. If we go to that page, it's our PAA login, but this is wherever you have your login, and edit the page. What we're going to see is something reasonably typical with DNN and Plant and App sites, and that is there are two login controls on the screen. Actually, one is an account login control, the DNN account login, and then we've added our own form because we want it to look like we want it to look. But in one of the rules of DNN, in order to point to a page that says this is my login page, you have to have an account login on it. That's what signals that it's okay to be a login page. So the methodology that we use is we put it on there and then we hide it, and that satisfies the requirement of DNN. So this is actually on the page, but this is the form that we're using to log in. For a little while, I'm going to go to the settings of this account login, the normal DNN account login, and change it to it's being hidden by permissions, and I'm going to change that and make it so it's available to all users so that we can see it. So I'm going to update this, and now our users are going to be able to see it. And this is kind of part of the normal path that I would expect you to take as you're implementing this, that you're going to want to find your account login, make sure it's visible. And then you're going to see you've got your normal username, password, but now you're going to see a new thing, login with sign in with Google. So I don't know, maybe that provider name isn't so great because that doesn't read really well, but that's okay. We're going to hide this in a little bit. So we're going to log in and sign in with Google. Just going to click it. It sends me off. We'll try that again. I will check my configuration here in a minute because it looks like I've done something wrong, but first we'll just try again and see if it magically fixes itself. So we're going to our site incognito, going to our login page, log in with sign in with Google. It still doesn't like us. So let's try figuring out why. First, I'm going to check my Google setup. So we've got Cafe 171 live. We have, well, let's read the error screen. See the error details. It says the redirect URI in the console is not correct. I might not have put the right page into Google. So let's see that. So we have our Cafe 171 live. It will open up. Oh, we didn't add an authorized redirect.
There you go.
So the page that we want is the login page. So wherever your login page, it has to be authorized. Let's see if that does us a better job now. And now it's time to check my previous project exactly how I did that so I can work with that. EAA login, that was the right page. So I didn't do the right page. So got to do these things right. The actual page is
Right. If you go to login, it'll redirect to BA login, but the actual page is dead. So this is the URL you gotta have.
back and login and now it's happy. So you get that's a nice little detour, making sure we get that one correct. So now I'm into with a normal Google sign in because I'm incognito. It doesn't know who I am. And so I've got to give my credentials. And somewhere over here, I have my password. And I'll look that up. Put a video to I don't have to edit it out. So password, I say next. And this is where if it doesn't recognize you, it's going to want two-factor authentication. So it's asking me to open up my Gmail account. So I'm open it up and saying, yes, it's me. As soon as I do that, it's because it's the first time, it's letting me know what's going to happen. So name, email address, language preference, profile picture is all going to plantonapp.com. If I'm happy with that, I can say continue. So Patrick, this is a note maybe you can take down, but I've been seeing that the first time that you log in with this, we're seeing sometimes we're seeing an error, and yet it ends up logging in anyway. So let's try that again. And so I did log in with Google, and we didn't redirect to a different page, but oh, now I
Did
know
you,
what's going on.
go ahead.
Yeah. So there is a setting. This is worth understanding. If we look in the configuration of our site and look at the users, there is a user already. The Dale Warner at plantonapp.com user already exists. And the username, let's go ahead and look at all of it. The username is Dale Warner at plantonapp.com. So this is a user that already exists. There is an option in DNN Sharp OpenID Connect that I skipped over earlier that says auto match existing users. So if one of you had tried to log into this site, it would have worked. But because my user already existed, it's saying, hey, I don't know what to do with this. So I'm going to activate this, allow it to auto match, and we'll see what happens when I do. So I'm going to save that change and go back to our incognito window and try one more time. This time it lets me log in. It says, hi, Dale, and it's got me signed in. So we've succeeded at getting logged in. Let's see what happened behind the scenes. If I go back to our configuration page and look at users, this particular user isn't showing on the users page because it doesn't have a user's role. So we'll have to look at it in the DNN menu. But the user that we were just looking at a minute ago has had their username changed to the ID from DNN Sharp OpenID Connect. So if you have existing users and you want them to be able to sign in with Google Connect, with OpenID Connect using Google, just realize that when they sign in, it's going to flip them automatically to the with that option enabled, it's going to flip them to a custom username, but keep them with the same user ID. So when you change over to using login with Google, it seems seamless, but their username actually changes, and they won't be able to log in with their own old credentials anymore. If you're, and you can keep both systems, right? People don't have to log in with the Google login. And so, for example, I'm logged in as we can see here, logged in as a Dale Warner plus host account, and I can continue logging in with that even though I don't have a Google account with that email address. But when it matches by email address and you're logging in with Google, it's going to take over the username and change it. That's just one of the characteristics of it. So let's try this out in a slightly different way. If we go back and look at, let's see, we're still on users over here. We don't have my personal email address is not in this list, and yet I'll still be able to log into it. And anybody who's on the call, let's go to the site and I'll post this in the chat. If anybody's interested in seeing that this actually works, you're welcome to sign into the site as well. But I'm going to sign into it with this in a new incognito session with a different email address, and you'll see that it creates this thing from scratch for me. So I hit login, sign in with Google. I've got to find password because sure. Yes, I'm sure. And I like the warning and I continue. So now it has, again, we're not redirecting to a new page. So that's got to change the URL here to get back to the home page. Uh, oh, I skipped a step and it's telling me exactly why. So now I'll tell you the thing that you need to know. There's a security setup that I hadn't done for this site. Under member accounts, registration settings, we have to make this be a public site. And so that's one step. And so I'll save that change. That lets them come on through just as soon as they get there. And then there's a couple of other things that are useful to do. And so let's handle them now as well. In DNN Sharp OpenID Connect, there is an action stack. So we go into the provider. Nope, not a new provider. The existing provider, and there is a list of actions that happen when you're authorized. And so we're going to do some user management actions. The first one is we want to authorize the user. So regardless of what else happens, we want this user to get authorized right away. So we do, this is a preference on your site. If you don't do this, if you don't make it public, then they have to be authorized by an administrator. So if you want some control, you don't have to do this. But in my case, I want to let them write in. And then the other action, another user management action, is I want to grant them a user role. I want to let them have the role of users. And so this will set them up for a normal Linton app user role experience. And so these two actions taken together will let me flash right into using the site. We can, if we look at our users, we can see that this one started to come in with that email address, and it just didn't. I'm going to delete it out so that we can just kind of completely repeat the experience. And so you delete the user, delete them permanently, and now we'll repeat the experience to log in. Site, we say we want to log in. And because we've already been through that whole dialogue, it just knows who we are. There's only one user that's associated with this browser and Google, and so it just let me write in without even having to go through the Google thing. If I'd had multiple identities, it would have made me pick an identity, but would have bypassed the two-factor authentication and things like that. So it's really completely greased the skids. So we can see now, if I sign out, I'm logged out. I'm not logged. If I click the sign in, okay, now it's making me sign in with Google, and boom, hi Dale. So we're good to go. So it can really make it very easy to log in. If we look at the users page here and refresh, we can see the user got created and authorized as we would have expected. So it came in with the username and excuse me, the ID and the role that we wanted. And again, it's using this. The username is a DNN Sharp OpenID Connect username. All right, let's catch up to where we are. So, yeah, we worked through all of this and we've tested and managed to log in and it is working and the user gets authenticated and coming back to the application, whatever the redirect URL, they're coming back correctly. So we're all through all of this. And so now we're up to let's customize the login form. So we just kind of we've been using the account login, the basic DNN one, but we want to use our action form and make it look nice. So that's where we're going next. I'm going to preview the site and go to that page so that we can work on it a little bit. So that's the PAA login page. I'm going to put it into edit mode. So the first step is we want to get this action form to have a nice login button, login with Google. And then we want to hide all this again so that people don't get confused about which one to use. So we're going to start with with modifying the action form. And so we're going to put a button. The button is going to be log in Google. Let's use the sign in with Google. I want this, I don't want to have causes validation because otherwise it's going to, the required username password fields are going to stop us and we don't need those for this. I want the button alignment. I want this to be a full width button so that it looks nice. And I also want to provide an icon. I want the Google icon in there. So we have this link to Font Awesome, and we can go look up a Google icon. So we'll go there. This opens in a new tab. We want the Google icon, just this generic one here. When we click it, it gives us a code snippet. It's assuming we're going to do that. Really, we just need what's in quotes here, but it's giving us the whole thing on our clipboard. So when we come here and paste it, we want to get rid of everything that's except what's in quotes. So it's going to be the FA brands, FA Google class, and that's going to give us our button that we want. Let's just stop there and check our progress. So we're going to have a button. It's not going to do anything yet. Sign in with Google. It's not positioned well, but it has our icon. So that's a good start. Let's work on the layout. Move this right up to our other login button and to be full size. So we'll go all the way out, save that little cosmetic change and refresh. And so, yeah, we're getting better. To make it look nice, I'm going to change my other login button to be similar. So we're going to make this be full width as well. So now we're getting a nice look. That's the look I was trying for. Now let's make it work. In order to make it work, you're going to need to know what we're really doing. The login with Google is actually attached to this account login form. And so we're going to need to know the module ID of the account login form. You can find that by going to settings, and it's hidden in the URL here. It's number 364. So we're going to be using 364 in just a minute. And the reason is we want it to interact with we want to interact with 364. We're going to do something in JavaScript to talk to that. So we go to our login form and look at the sign in with Google button. And what we're going to use is a execute JavaScript code and stop execution. And the JavaScript we need is this thing. And that's also going to be on the chat for you. So we paste that little bit of JavaScript that we've prepared for you, and we change this number to 364. So this says, hey, just click that button over there to do a post back to this particular thing, and it's going to trigger the login with Google activity. So it's a little JavaScript magic. So now we can test that out. I'm going to close out of edit mode here. And so we say sign in with Google, and it takes us away to the Google page, just as we would expect. So that's what's involved in setting up sign in with Google. Now, thoughts? I heard noises. So now we just need to get rid of this login screen, and also this tag. You'll see that in just a second. So I'm going to do that over here. The DNN sharp OpenID connect. We skipped past this earlier, but there's a hide DNN login screen. And so if we save that change and refresh this, the login screen gets hidden, but our login with sign with Google, our special link, didn't get hidden. Now we're going to have to take care of with CSS. So I am going to do a little bit of CSS work here today and hunt down that this is actually part of social controls and or social registration. I'm going to pay attention to social controls here. There's lots of different ways to do this, but I'm just going to interactively display none, and that'll get rid of it. So this is the CSS code that we need to get rid of that item. And so we can go into our custom CSS for the site under settings, add that little bit of CSS, and refresh the page. And now we're back to our login screen without anything that we don't want users to see. So let's see if I have it. Yeah, I still have my, I don't think I have my incognito window. So I'm going to go back to the home page here and just try out all of our work in incognito to see how it works. So I'm on the page, not logged in. I click login. I could log in with the normal method, but I can click sign in with Google. I get redirected, and I could just work through the dialog, and I would be logged in. So working, we've kind of hit the main target. I'm going to do a few more things here, but yeah, just covering the steps. We added the button, we added the JavaScript. We hid the account login via the option hide login form, and we hid the social controls through CSS. In these last few minutes, I want to point out some other things that are available to you so that you can take advantage of them if you want to. When you're doing OpenID Connect in the provider, in the unauthorized actions, if you read the fine print, you see that there are some tokens that you get. So there's a claims token. If you just use claims, it'll be the JSON of everything that came back from whatever the provider, in this case, Google, is. So everything that Google decided to include in the payload is going to be available to you. Let me take a quick look here. Somewhere I have this, and I can show it to you what the JSON looks like. I think I have this in my other system. Yes. In my work on when I'm setting this up, and I'll add it back over here, I took the claims information and put it into a data table just so that I could see what it was, and so I have them here. So this is what's coming back from Google. Let me do a more recent one here. And we'll make that in a nice, pretty way so we can see it in see what the JSON looks like. So Google is giving us back an issuer, something called an AZP and an AUD and a sub. We can see the HD is plantainapp.com. The email address for the person that came in is there. That's how we're populating that in how it's getting populated automatically by our connector. Whether or not the email has been verified, my name, my picture. So this is something that you could take advantage of if you wanted to. And then there's a first name, last name, and this looks like some dates and times, like an expiration time. And you could dig into what Google is returning, but this the picture is something that is being returned. And so if you wanted to take advantage of that and use that for their profile picture, in my case, it's just a D, but my other address, it has my smiling face on it. So you could just automatically provide the picture in the upper right-hand corner in the site. This picture here, you could use that and put it there. If you asked for more claims from more scopes from Google and you got authorized to use them, so you got your app approved, I'm pretty sure that those scopes would appear in the claims payload, so you would be able to access them and apply them back and use them how you want to. So if you got location information, for example, or who knows what Google has that they can pass on, but if you investigate the scopes, there's probably more there that would be of interest. So that's the claims token. We dealt with, as we're struggling through, as I was struggling through some of that stuff, that we had to soft delete and hard delete and things like that. And much like we talked about in our last episode, if you soft delete a user in DNN, they are disabled from being used, but they're still on the system. In that case, an OpenID Connect provider like Google can't create a new user and it can't authorize that user. So soft deleting the user would, in effect, make it where they could no longer log in. If you hard delete them and your DNN system no longer knows anything about them, then the next time they come in through this Google sign in with Google, it would create them all over again according to whatever rules that you had in effect. So soft delete might be useful to lock somebody out is the point there, and or you can hard delete to get them to come in. Also, that logic for these unauthorized actions happen every time the user logs in. So if their name is changed or their picture is changed under Google, it's going to get transferred again. Any of the other claims that you get will be updated from Google. So you get a shot at those every time. So if you want to do something with them, you can do them here. Great time for questions, because I'm just going to summarize here. So the summary of what we did is, yeah, well, we've already demonstrated, but you can log in with Google. You can, whatever page that's on the redirect URL when you start out, so I suppose I could demonstrate that. So for example, if we're here on the Open LDAP page, and I'm going to again go in through Google. So incognito, I tried to get to the Open LDAP page, but I'm not logged in. If I work through the sign in dialog here with sign in with Google, it's going to drop me back on that page automatically. So let's see if I can figure out how to sign in. Authentication one more time. This should drop me to the right page. It does. So that return URL becomes very important to and is being respected by Google. So or by the process, let's say, to get you back to where the link that you were going to. And then just to mention, I don't know if it'll be in 2 weeks from now, but as the topics are ready, we're going to do this some more for some of these other enterprise level ways to authenticate. So there's passkey, Active Directory, trusted certificates. We'll continue signing on. I see there's a question, is the two-factor open email in Gmail the only option? So this is a Google thing. If you, I believe it's all variable. The fact that I had two-factor authentication set up on the accounts that I happen to be using sent me to going to the authenticator. I think that as you it's basically Google. Your setup, your individual setup with Google is going to determine how it authenticates. So I suspect if I didn't have two-factor authentication turned on, it wouldn't have asked me to do that at all. And if I had it turned on, but with another method, like send me an email, then I probably would have had to go to the email and actually click a link. I don't know. It's but in that kind of thing, this is according to the way that you're set up with Google, not, we don't, it's another nice thing, we don't have to concern ourselves with it.
And just to clarify that, the person who's logging into your site, it's their accounts set up with Google, how their account is set up.
Thanks for
clarifying
that. And then with regard to two-factor authentication, and I should put that on this list as well, just as a separate topic, I think we'll spend more time on our side doing two-factor authentication I know in some historical Low Code Café, one of our team had like the Google Authenticator app, so that you would have to enter in a 6-digit code that changes every minute. So you'd have to have the Authenticator app set up correctly. So we might go over that one again too, just as part of logging in, and if you wanted to add another level of security that was beyond any of the other methods to log in.
So I can touch on Ben's question.
Yes, I would.
Yeah,
a great question.
Yeah. So no, this Ben. The question is just so everybody else is aware, is that this is only for authenticating into the website, but it can't be used to get an OAuth 2 token for Google to use other services. And that's correct. No, it cannot. But we do have another add-on that is not public, but it has been used in a few cases that we can. If you're interested, talk to us. But there is something else that we have available that you can use to get the OAuth 2 token for Google.
Nice. All right, and with that, we made it past our hour, so I'll just say thank you for coming and for listening. We're glad to get this one in the books and have the ability to relatively easily, under an hour, you can get set up with where your users can log into your site with sign in with Google. We'll be doing more of these. We will be back with another live episode in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining. See you then.